द वे फॉरवर्ड इज ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ स्वागत है। मैं ਤੁਹਾਡਾ होस्ट हरजोत सिंह। ਅਸੀਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਇਸ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਰੀਕ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਔਰ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਇਤ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਰਿਲੀਜੀਅਸ ਇੰਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਮਿਲਦੇ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਗਾਇਬ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦਾ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਔਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਓਪਰਚੁਨਿਟੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਫੀਟ ਹੋਲਡ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛ ਸਕੀਏ ਕਿ ਬਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਮਿਸਿਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਬਣਿਆ। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ, मैं तुहानू दस दियां कि न्यूयॉर्क सिटी काउंसिल डिस्ट्रिक्ट 23 दे 3 कैंडिडेट्स हैगे, स्टीव बिहार, रुबैया रहमान और इनकम्बेंट लिंडा ली। अज स्टूडियो विच साडे कोल स्टीव बिहार हैगे, रुबैया रहमान हैगे, but for some reason Linda Lee could not be present as she had some prior occupations। ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ, ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਰੀਸ਼ੈਡਿਊਲ ਵੀ ਕੀਤਾ, but being an incumbent ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੋਰ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਔਰ whatever the reason she could not be here today, but I am sure she would be here for another forum which we are going to hold in next few days before the election। We take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Rahman and Mr. Behar. Steve, Rubaiya, you're both very welcome, and thank you so much for taking out the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You know, we are new still to this political process. We are new to the country as a whole, and what we have seen is we want to get involved. We seek that representation. We see that seek that table, that chair on the table. That's one of the reasons we like people from our community to come forward, but we always stand with the people who have stood for our community, and it's important for us to know what the candidates plan to do. Steve was here earlier as well, and he made a point. He said, there are no issues, there are very few issues which are particular to a community. There are issues for everyone. We understand that, but on top of that, again, there are certain issues which are close to the community, which only someone who either belongs to the community or deals closely with the community understands.
Absolutely.
Both these candidates, we are proud to say, have been very close to our communities. They understand our issues, and we'll talk more to see how closely they understand our communities and our issues. Rubaiya, Steve, you're both very welcome. And Rubaiya, I will start with you today. Please tell us something about yourself.
Thank you, Harjot. Thank you very much. Sat Shri Akal.
Sat Shri Akal.
Namaskar. Good evening. So, I am Rubaiya. मेरा नाम रुबैया है, and मैं क्वींस डिस्ट्रिक्ट 23 से इलेक्शन के लिए खड़ी हूँ। अभी जो लोग हमारे प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं, उसके पास सिख भाई और बहनों हो, हिंदू भाई और बहनों हो, और पंजाबी हो और मुस्लिम हो, उसके हम विनती करेंगे जे ये इलेक्शन बहुत ही ज़रूरी है हमारे लिए, क्योंकि इस टाइम मैं रुबैया रहमान खड़ी हूँ, एंड आपका जो कीमती वोट है वो हमें डाले। क्यों कीमती हो ये हम अभी बताएंगे आपको।
Definitely. But Rubaiya, I would like you to tell us something about yourself. Were you born in this country? Did you go to school here? Tell us something about your professional life.
So I am an immigrant. I came from Bangladesh 20 years back, and I put myself through NYU School of Law. I studied law here. At the same time, I was raising 2 of my children, and one of them is autistic, so the challenge was very high for me. But I give the credit to my son because he inspired me to work for the community. I saw firsthand the challenges, the hardship of the community, because you understand it is a community, we are coming from another country, we are immigrants. Being an immigrant, I have a child who has disability. That makes the challenge even higher. And that's where I need lot of support. Our community needs lot of support, and that's what I'm doing.
Steve, you're no stranger to the community, but I would like you to tell about yourself again.
Sure. Well, first I want to commend Rubaiya, because she's a great voice for the autism community. And you know, she's a great asset to the community, and I'm hoping I win this election, and when I do win, I'm hoping that she will continue to be that voice and I can do whatever I can to help her.
Thank you.
So on that note, I'll tell a little about me. I'm the grandson of 4 immigrants, and all 4 of my grandparents were immigrants. I'm married to an immigrant. My wife was born in Haiti, came here when she was 17 years old. She didn't speak any English, and within a year and a half, she graduated high school, went on to a nursing school, went on to Queens College, where she graduated with honors and with a bachelor's in political science. So she's lived the American dream. Myself, I grew up in our district. I moved here when I was 6. My family moved here because of the schools. The schools were really good back then. They're still really good, and we need to keep it that way. I have 4 degrees after high school. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and political science from the University of Albany, an MBA in finance and management from Tulane University, a JD, a law degree from Tulane University, and a master's of law in securities and financial regulation from Georgetown University Law School. I started my career in Washington at the Securities and Exchange Commission as an attorney working under Bill Clinton, and went to a Wall Street law firm for a while, and then I was corporate counsel at Toys R Us, and then I started my own practice where I focused on small businesses. I've since spent 2 years as counsel in the New York State Senate and 6 years as counsel in the New York City Council, and I also have taught as an adjunct at the SUNY Old Westbury. That's my background. And
that's awesome. Rubaiya, I would like to ask you, do you have any previous experience with the government? Is this your first election, or have you run for office earlier?
Actually, no, not here. I was actually very busy with the nonprofit organization, but in my journey with the nonprofit, I had been working in different campaign. I was a field organizer and field supervisor with Melinda Katz, with Michael Blake, with John Liu, with Senator who else? Gregory Mix, and some local elections. So I have seen the election from inside, how it is run, and that's how I learned the process of the election in America.
You're no stranger to the political process.
No.
Steve, I'll ask you the same question. Is this the first time you're running, or do you have any experience with government?
I ran 2 years ago, but I've been working on campaigns for over 20 years. I've worked on 3 presidential campaigns. I worked on Howard Dean's presidential campaign in 2004, Hillary Clinton in 2008, and after Senator Clinton didn't get the nomination, Obama's campaign recruited me to go down to Pennsylvania for 6 weekends before the election. And when I was campaign manager for James Sanders Jr. When he first won the Senate seat, and I became his counsel for 2 years. And I was campaign manager for Councilman Barry Grudenchik for his election and re-election. And after he won, I stayed on as his counsel for 6 years. So we've both been around the block.
Yeah, you know, we are lucky to have candidates who have such rich political experience, because we are in a situation in the country. I always say that it's an inflection point. The role of the government as a whole is being defined. I think it's a historical moment, and it's a situation where we would, we apprehend that we might see some people left behind, and some people, we already seen certain segments of the society make enormous gains, and sometimes, at the cost of other people. So we will talk about issues. We will understand where you stand on issues. After a short break, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ The Way Forward. The Way Forward is ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਸਿਟੀ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਟ 23 ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਸਟੀਵ ਬਿਹਾਰ ਐਂਡ Mr. Rahman ਦੇ ਨਾਲ Rubaiya Rahman. Sorry about that. When we start talking about issues, the biggest issue for any community is education, right? And as Steve, you mentioned, this district has always had, great schools, great history, but we are a bit concerned with what we have seen in the past. I understand that there were some budget cuts, and whereas there were a lot of other places where we could have expected those cuts to be, those cuts were made in the budget for education, which came as a surprise. I know you have been involved with education for a very long time. You've served on school boards and all. Can you tell us, how do you see this issue?
Well, first of all, my family moved here when I was 6 years old to our district because of the schools. I was 6 years old, my brother was 4 years old. I went to the local schools, PS 46, MS 74, and Cardozo High School. Neither one of my parents had a college education. My father was a World War II vet and left high school to go to the war. My mom graduated high school. Her dad passed away when she was 18. She had to go to work. They both were certainly capable of going to college, but they didn't have the opportunity. Our schools and our district gave me that opportunity. And when I've been talking to people, especially knocking on doors during the campaign, and when I talk to younger couples now that moved here, particularly even immigrant families, first, second generation immigrant families who have moved to our district, they've come here, they've paid money to buy houses in our district because of the schools, just like my parents did. So I was kind of shocked when in Councilmember Lee's first budget that she voted to cut the school budget by $469 million. And those cuts cost, among other things, 700 teachers their jobs. You would think a council member representing our community would understand the importance of education to our families, but apparently she didn't. So she voted to cut the school budget. A few weeks later, her and some of her colleagues at the city council started feeling the backlash, and they wrote a letter to the mayor asking to renegotiate the budget, and that he basically rejected that.
Steve, we don't have Linda here today to defend her position, and I hope this comes as a message to Linda. She needs to be here to defend. It's a very serious. I don't know if I can use the word allegation, but it's a serious situation, which I'm sure there must be reasons. But I must say that yes, we did feel kind of surprised with that budget cut. How do you see that, Ms. Rubaiya?
Thank you. So school is a basic element for our growth. You can say education is the backbone of a society. And we came to this country, we left our country of birth to become better life, better children, better education to them. That was the thought we have for equality of life. And as a proud South Asian, I think that we are very strong in this matter. Education is very important to us. And that's why District 26 in our district, that is the Board of Education, that is a #1 district in the whole of New York City schools. I moved from Jamaica to Belrose because of the school district for my daughter and my son. So that motivated us, that motivated people to come to this district. We have to have better school, better teachers. Moreover, as you know, I am a proponent of disability rights and special need children. I have fought for it from the day one. And I want schools to have special need section very, very effective. What we are seeing now, they don't have speech therapists, they don't have occupational therapists, sometimes they have no special need teacher. Why not? Because of the budget cut. And we have to have it where we will send our children, because we cannot afford to send them to a private school for that. ABA therapy is one therapy which is so expensive that no normal family can afford it. We have to have it through the public school. And if there is a budget cut, you are laying off the regular teachers, let alone our special need teachers. So that is something we have to think, that where our children will end up. We need our children to go to a specialized high school. We want them to start the elementary in a very strong footing so that they can end up in a better school and college. If we cut the budget here, then that future is very shaky. We don't have that. So we have to renegotiate that. We have to have our budget, and we have to make sure that our teachers are properly recruited and they are in job.
You know, I hope we had Linda Lee here because this happened on her watch, and she could defend her position. And I'm hoping that she'll be here next time to tell us what were the reasons for this cut. But Steve, tell me, how much truth do you think there is to this perception that when budgets are cut for schools, it's cut in the areas, in the minority-dominated areas? How much truth do you think there is to that?
Well, I think those budget cuts were across the board. But if you take our our council district, District 23, as Rubaiya said, District 26, which covers mostly the northern part of our district, is and always has been a great school district. Now, in the southern part of the district, there's District 29. And those schools don't perform as well as those schools in District 26. And when I was counseled to Councilman Grudenchik, we spent a lot of time and invested a lot of money in District 29 schools. For example, IS 109 in Queens Village. We rebuilt an auditorium, we built a science lab, we built a dance studio, and redid the schoolyard. Those schools are starting out a little bit behind. So those are schools that we should be investing even more money into to bring them up to the level of District 26. So it's harder on those schools that weren't performing as well and needed more investment when you cut the overall budget. So when you're a school that is trying to climb and you get a budget cut, it hurts you even more. And I think that's what's happening across the board in the city.
Rubaiya, do you think the minority-dominated areas, the cuts are more?
I should agree with Steve, but when the layoff comes in, you know how the layoff goes, that it comes from the lower end. So who are in the lower end? That is our minority teachers, because they may be a little less in the educational side. There are teachers who are not that much experienced, so they are joining, and their experience level like a couple of years, whereas you have experienced teachers who have 10, 20, 15 years of their length of career. So they are laid off last.
It's the newer ones that are laid off.
Yeah, the newer one, they are laid off first. So minority are definitely affected.
And you're saying that with the last budget cuts, we lost around 700 teachers?
700 teaching jobs, yes.
Wow. You know, there's nothing more close, and particularly to the South Asian community, Indians, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, all of them, education is their ticket to, progressing in this society.
Absolutely.
So we definitely need representatives. We need candidates who are voice in the city council to bring more money into our schools, to bring more money into our system. And I'm sure both of you give the right weightage that this issue requires. There is something else which would define you as candidates and is very, very important for our community, because again, that's going to define our communities, that's going to define the future for our children. And that is a balance between rampant development and things like quality of life. And if you may get any idea, I'm talking about the development project that is proposed around Hillside, and there's is it called Creedmoor?
It is Creedmoor.
All right. Can you throw some light on that? Can you tell us what's going on there?
Okay.
And where do you stand?
Of course, that is a moot point, and this is an issue. I have been taking this to Barry Grodenchik when he was the city council, couple of times, not once. As you know, I'm a mother, a proud mother of a son with autism. He's 24 years old, and he stays with us. Do you know why? Because there is not proper place for him to go. All this transition happens when he finishes his school. He needs to go to a place where it is called day program. And there are very few appropriate, culturally appropriate, linguistically appropriate day program for children of our South Asian origin. They eat different, they live different, they are used to different environment. And if they don't get it, a autistic child refuses to go up there. So we cannot send him to any random places. We need a place that is appropriate, that is culturally appropriate. You cannot give a child macaroni and cheese while he is used to with roti and chawal or dal. He cannot have it. So we need a proper place. So my suggestion with Mr. Barry Grodenchik and other elected officials, I've been to a couple of places, that this Creedmoor place is lying there. It's a big, huge property, and maybe we can make a good use of it. Right now, it is just lying there, and it is not 1 or 2 days, year after year after year. We can have beautiful schools there with a beautiful campus. It is all laid out there, but nobody takes an action, and this is bizarre. Why it is so? It has to be put to some use. It's a beautiful piece of land, and we can have beautiful schools, we can have beautiful day program there, and seniors, they don't have a place to go. They can go this place.
It's time for a short break. We'll continue this after the break. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ The Way Forward. The Way Forward is ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ host ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। So Steve, before going to the break, Rubaiya was telling us about this project, the Creedmoor. How do you see that?
Well, first, I just acknowledge that I agree with Rubaiya on we need to make more investments with both children and adults with special needs. And it's something that we need to do across the board. I know I'm the first vice president of the PTA at PS 46, and we just as a school just had a very big fundraiser for our Horizon program, and it's one thing that we need to do, make sure that our elected officials understand that those are our sons and our daughters too, and that they deserve investment and everything needed to have a good life. That being said, the Creedmoor property is something that I've been dealing with for a long time now. Back before the pandemic, the New York State Economic Development came to Councilman Grodenchik and I and laid out plans for this property. It's about 55 acres. It's a big piece of land.
55 acres.
55 acres. And the state wants to excess the land, meaning they want to sell it and develop it. And they came to us with a plan with tall buildings and a supermarket and all the shopping. And it didn't fit with the character of our community. It was basically, they wanted to build a little city on this 55 acres. Now, our district, we don't have the rooms in our schools. There's too much traffic already. Parking is getting bad. We have no subways or train stops, so we're a transportation desert. So this doesn't fit within our district. So we told them.
Don't you think it creates a revenue for bringing in those things?
Well, that's the problem actually, is that the state is looking at how much money they can make, not what's suitable for the community. And I told economic development when I was counsel to Councilman Gudenchik, I said, we don't want this here. Our schools are already overcrowded. We can't take this. It doesn't fit with our community. What I said that I would accept 4 things there. I would accept another school, because PS 18 is there and it's overcrowded. More parkland. I would take senior affordable housing with a potential component for senior veterans housing, and possibly a community center. And that's it. And they left. And then the pandemic hit, and we didn't hear anything. And now, once the pandemic was over, they came back to the community and said they want our input. And I've been going to meetings. I've gone to every single meeting that they had. They wanted the community's input. The community was there. They gave the input. It was overwhelming. They wanted more green space. They wanted anything had to be low rise. They wanted senior affordable housing.
I'm sorry, who wants this? The state or the city?
No. This is what the community wanted.
Okay.
The state came. It's the State Economic Development Corporation. They came and asked what the community wanted. And meeting after meeting after meeting, they asked what we wanted. We told them what we wanted, what we didn't want, which is probably more important. And they've come back with a plan, which is exactly what we didn't want. They've got tall buildings. Again, it's a little city. It doesn't have the supermarket and things that they were trying to put in there before, but it's still a big city. And it's not what we want. It's not what the community wants.
Sure.
Unfortunately, Councilmember Lee at the last forum that we had, she said, I don't go to these meetings, I send my staff. And to me, that was a terrible thing to say. We need a council member. I'm sure Rubaiya and I, if either one of them are the council member, we'll go to those meetings. She's just sending staff there. So I'm afraid of what's going to end up there. And I think this is a really important issue in our district, because this is the largest development that probably I've seen in my life in the district, and it's probably the life of my kids. This is the
Again, we'll have to have Ms. Lee here to defend, her position. She's not here to defend, right? But again, understanding your perspective as candidates, as politicians, Democrats sometimes are accused of overlooking the need of wealth creation in the society. These community centers, schools, they're very important. But economic activity is very important as well.
Of course.
Right? So if somebody wants to bring in economic activity in your district, why are you opposed to it?
Actually, we are not opposed to it. We are from my standpoint, economy is very important. We already have, if you go to my district, you will see that lot of businesses. But those businesses, among those small businesses, there are a lot of vacant places. Why it is vacant? Because City Council, the policy the City Council takes, it hurts the small business. If you look into the laws that the landlords have a right to take care of their tenancy as they want. Once the tenancy comes to an end, the business owner doesn't have a say whether he has a right to renew or he can stay in the business. If that is the case, and if the landlord keeps him out, he is in the street, he is losing the business. This is like you can go mile after mile and you will see a lot of businesses shut down. It is not working there. if you bring a new thing, new business in this property and it is not opened up, you will see a big building, new construction, not a single store, not a single business there. So if that is the case in other places in our district, then what will happen to Creedmoor? It will be another empty space with big buildings. We need to make sure that all the policies City Council takes, it does not hurt us. It does not hurt our people, our businesses. It has to be friendly to our, I am sure that I am with the landlords, but I am also with the businesses. There has to be a balance of policies that it has to be friendly to the business owners as well as the landlords. So we make the Creedmoor a big building, big shopping center, and it is vacant. Is it of any use? It has to be economically viable.
Steve,
Quickly, do you want to add anything to this, to the economic
yes,
activity aspect?
I think that you're hitting two different things here. We don't need overdevelopment in our district. And this project at Creedmoor that they're proposing, state economic development, is overdevelopment. It doesn't fit within the character of our community. As far as businesses go, first of all, New York City has way too much red tape for small businesses. I've been a small business owner. My brother owns a small bagel store in our district for 30 years. There's tons of red tape that small businesses have to go to. And as Rubaiya said, if you go down the main streets in our district, if you go down Union Turnpike, Hillside Avenue, Jamaica Avenue, which is also Jericho Turnpike, a part of it, you'll see a lot of empty stores. I have a plan that I call Restore, that if I get into office, or when I'm in office, I'm gonna wanna create, with my discretionary funds in the City Council, a public-private partnership. And I wanna work with some local, either small credit union or banks and nonprofits that work on businesses and small businesses, and try to incubate businesses, maybe 5 to 10 every year, to go into those empty stores and have some discretionary funds as startup funds, have a bank or a credit union that offers better terms for the new businesses. And let's get some stores in there. And let's try to grow economic development, and let's try to grow jobs in our community.
So you're both not against development. You're not both against economic, activity. It's just that you think that particular overdevelopment would hurt
but
the
you are
character
talking
of the
about
property.
the Creedmoor area, but we are talking about the entire area. So if our entire area, the existing business are not doing well, by overdeveloping the Creedmoor area, we are actually not helping our community. So we have to look from the beginning of the point. I want to do it like I'm thinking, or I have a policy that if I am elected, then I should have the policies set up correct so that it does not hurt our business owners.
Understood. You know, another issue, we have a lot of people in your district who have worked for the city, right? And city has come up with a new, I don't know what stage it is, where they are changing the nature of medical care, the medical insurance that city employees always had. That's a very important issue, and we will talk about that on the other side of the break. ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਦ ਵੇ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ। द वे फॉरवर्ड इस ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। So Steve, before going to the break, we started talking about this change in the medical benefits plan. Can you tell us a little about that?
Sure. People need to understand that, first of all, both my parents were New York City retirees. My dad, after he retired, worked 7 years as a lunchroom helper in PS 203 in Bayside. My mother was the cook in PS 98 in Douglaston for 23 years. So when my parents were working in what was called the Board of Education back then, they were promised that if you worked a certain amount of years and you vested in your pension, that you would have New York City health care for the rest of your life. And when you hit 65 and you got Medicare, that New York City health care, which formerly was your primary health care, would become secondary to Medicare. So you'd have Medicare first and then city health care second. What the city has done now is basically a bait and switch with our city retirees. And they're saying, well, what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of having your Medicare and your city as the secondary, we're going to put you in this, what I call Medicare disadvantage plan. And it's a much less valuable plan than having Medicare and the city health plans together. And the city retirees are understandably up in arms. I spoke with a woman that I knocked on her door in Belrose. She's a New York City retiree. She's 75 years old. And she's very worried because she says, I have 5 doctors. And most of these doctors I've had for 20, 30 years. And I've called them about this new proposed Medicare disadvantage plan. And 4 of the 5 don't take it. And she says, I'm 75 years old. I don't want to go start looking for new doctors now.
Absolutely. Do you share the opinion?
Yes, for the retirees, it is so upsetting. They were promised that they will have their chosen healthcare when they retire. They have given their life to the city. They have worked all years and now they are lonely. Now they are at their end of their age and they want to be assured that what they were promised, they should get it. And they are, with the privatization, they are so nervous, so upset what they will do. This is actually hurting our retirees and it cannot go on. It has to be dealt with.
You know, this is a very sensitive issue and a very important issue. And, you know, I'll urge all our community members, all our viewers who are watching, you need to pay particular attention to, this particular issue because it has huge effects and it touches, a lot of lives and then it spills into various other, issues as well because it becomes a precedent, right?
And I'll tell you, one thing, Councilmember Lee has not come out either way on the issue. So, I've seen many retirees have called her office to ask where she stands. And I've seen on social media, many people have asked her how she stands. She refuses to answer. So we don't even know where she stands.
So a third invitation to Ms. Lee for the next forum. Both of you. People are getting really concerned with increasing crime in New York City. Not just in Manhattan, but all over New York City.
Yes.
How do you look at that?
Wow, this is something so alarming. People are not taking the subway because they feel that if we go down to the subway station, they may be pushed. But then it is on the subway. Our district is not connected with the subway. That is fine, but what is happening? We have lot of taxi drivers, we have lot of business owners who work late in the night. They come home, they get down from the car and they are banged from behind and they are falling in the sidewalk and injured and their stuff are taken away. This never happened in our district, but now it is happening. So the crime rate has gone up. Moreover, there are a lot of hate crime. In 1 week, there were 3 incidents that 3 Sikh people were attacked, taking them as Muslim. So, Muslim is my brother, a Sikh brother is my brother. None should be attacked.
Yes.
So, we should propose there should be more and more police patrols on the roads. And if I'm elected, I would like to have another precinct in our district because our demography has changed, our number of population has increased. We need more protection.
See, that's interesting. We, from certain quarters in the Democratic Party, we have been hearing about defunding the police, and now we are hearing about another demand for more precincts. Where do you stand on this issue?
Well, I'm definitely not for defunding the police, and Rubaiya is right that, first of all, we have to work on these hate crimes. When our district has had several Sikhs attacked, also in Richmond Hill there were several attacks on Sikhs. We've also had Muslims attacked on 188th Street. That's disgusting and should never happen. As far as Rubaiya says with the precinct, we've actually done that. When for 40 years, the community was trying to get another precinct built. The 105th precinct goes from New Hyde Park, North Shore Towers, all the way down to JFK Airport. So largest precinct by size. When for decades I've been working with the civic associations to try to cut that in half and build another precinct. I was counsel to James Sanders Jr. for 2 years in the Southeast Queens. And they had the same problem because they were saying the 105th precinct is up in Queens Village, and if you got a call in Rosedale or Springfield Gardens, it takes a long time to get down there. When I was working with Councilman Grudenchik, I told Barry how important this issue was, and we worked with then council member Donovan Richards, and we went to Mayor de Blasio, and he put $125 million to build a new precinct. And we've actually broken ground. It's the 116th precinct. It's going to be built, it's being built down in Rosedale now. And what that will do is it will cut the 105th precinct in half. I don't think the official lines have come out, but it's probably somewhere about Linden Boulevard. We'll break it. And what that will do is that will keep our cars in our section. And the 116th precinct will then be taken care of and patrolling the south part of the 105th precinct. So you're right, but Rubaiya, but that's actually getting done. And within the next year or so, I believe that precinct will open. But the other thing is that we need a council member who's got his or her finger on the pulse of what's going on in our community. And I don't think we have that now with Councilmember Lee.
And let me tell you, that's a fourth attack on Ms. Lee, but I must tell you that, that's my message to both of you, that crime is a big issue, which I don't know why. In the perception is that Democratic Party has been overlooking for quite some time, and the situation is become slightly worse than before. That's a perception. That is something that needs to be addressed. Yes, you want to say something?
But you have to know what's going on and where it's going on. So I've been knocking on doors again for months. So I know that in Floral Park on 269th Street and 270th Street, there's been a rash of cars getting their wheels stolen in the middle of the night, and people wake up in the morning and their cars are on cinder blocks. And I also know that they tend to be targeting Hondas and BMWs. If you're the council member, you need to know this stuff. I know that there's a homeowner on Commonwealth Boulevard whose house was burglarized when he went to Boston to see his son. If you're the council member, you need to know this, and you need to work with the precinct to get coverage in the places that these things are happening. And we're not having that right now.
No, that is the issue. That unless we have more police patrol, because these are the things new to our community. It was not happening before, and now it is happening. The prices of merchandise has gone up. Post-COVID, we are seeing a lot of things happening that was not here before. So we have to think in a different way, not that a precinct will come out. That is a different thing in the future. We need help and support now, right now.
And I'm sure both of you as legislators and as representatives might have some opinion on the whole bail reform thing as well, how that has worked out and what needs to be done. Another issue which haunts the community is homelessness. We don't have much time left. Quick view. What do you think about that?
The homelessness, actually what happened in our district is that the city actually put some people in our district as a homeless shelter. But our community, actually, the district is actually very, very residential. And so our members of the community and the advisors, they are all a little bit unsure that how to approach that. But whatever it is, it needs to be, the community has to come, they have to have their say that what they want. And unless they can say that, we
Sure.
cannot just push people into the community.
Steve.
We're spending $3.5 to $4 billion a year on homelessness.
We is who?
The city. New York City is spending $3.5 to $4 billion a year on homelessness. But what we're doing is we're putting a Band-Aid on a major laceration. We're not going to the heart of the problem. And the heart of the problem comes from many different ways, but two major places that we have to focus on. One is mental health, because there's a lot of people that are homeless that have mental health issues that need help, and we're not getting them the help they need. And we have to do better at that. The other part is housing. Housing's too expensive. And while, yes, some people are homeless and have mental health issues, if you go to a shelter, there's a lot of working families with children living in shelter because they can't afford to live in an apartment and pay rent. And if we worked on those two issues, we'd not only solve those issues, but we'd also deal with our homeless problem.
Rubaiya, Steve, we have had such a healthy discussion today. You know, these are all such substantive points that were made out today. You know, we have actually run out of time. Quickly, I would like to hear from you in your own words. Why do you think you are the best candidate that in the whole district should come forward and support in this election?
I am coming from South Asian community. I have worked my way to the law school. I raised my family. I have my in-laws with me. I have been with them. I know what are the struggles, and I know from the grassroots level and up. So I can present the issues of our community to the city hall, I think the best way, because I felt it, I have gone through it. It was my life, and still it is my life, where I am facing all these challenges. I am sure, because I meet people every day who come and cry, and they say, do something for us. I want to do something for them. And I think I know where the problem is. I want to fix it.
Absolutely. Steve.
Well, I think first of all, I have the educational background, the public background. I've worked at all three levels of government, federal, state, and at the city level. And I also have a lot of private sector. So I understand the whole sphere of what we have to understand to be the council member. I've also been active in this community in our district for decades. I've worked as a volunteer ambulance corps dispatcher, and then I worked in the back of the ambulance for years. I was on the community board for I think 7 years. I was counsel to Councilman Gudenchik for 6 years. I've worked with local organizations and civic associations again for decades. And I also have a coalition of support among all various demographic and social groups. And I think that I'm the one that can work together and put everybody together and represent the community.
Steve, Rubaiya, it's been such a pleasure talking to both of you today. We wish you all the very best. The primary, I think it's on June 27th, right? The primary is on June 27th. We'll urge all of you to come out, vote, listen to the issues, support your candidates. Don't vote just in the presidential years. Come out and vote. Thank you so much. AC Sada Aaj da show. So, the way forward.